So, your feed. Jam, everyone.
Hi.
We are live right now from Super Team Singapore offices. And I'm joined today by Jiani.
Yes.
Jiani, who's doing growth at Solana Foundation. So welcome to Soul Brothers, and thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
A bit spontaneous, a bit of a messy week.
Yeah.
So actually really appreciate that you said, yep, let's do it. Half an hour, we want to chat.
Yeah.
And we're here today to learn a little bit more about you, your journey, why you went to Solana. It's something I want to talk about as well. But most importantly, what you do at Solana Foundation these days, because it says growth at Solana Foundation in your bio. Could mean anything. So what would you say are you growing when it comes to work with Solana?
Yeah. So I'm Jiani. I joined Solana this year in March. Previously, I was in crypto in the venture capital industry, investing with a fund over the last 2 years. And previously, before that, I lived in San Francisco for about 5 years. I started my career at a family office called Iconic Capital, which manages the sort of the wealth of Mark Zuckerberg post-IPO, mostly through his Facebook shares. And then through that journey, the firm grew to manage sort of the wealth of many other successful Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, such as Twitter founder Jack Dorsey, the Airbnb founders, Uber, also the early other Facebook executives like Sheryl Sandberg, and a few others. So it was a really great place to start my career and understand how transformational technology is in terms of creating an application that billions of people can use and making all the difference in the world, connecting people everywhere borderlessly. And that's also quite similar to why I kind of fell in love with crypto, because it's also similar in terms of 0 to 1. It's just explosive. And you just don't have any idea how big it can get until it gets there. So this is kind of why my journey has always been with technology, whether it's investing in Web2 companies in San Francisco, or kind of now full-time building and growing the Web3 ecosystem, specifically with Solana.
Cool. And what's the focus for you at Foundation? Because growth can mean a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I suppose you're not growing the Twitter followers.
No.
Like what's your focus on?
Yeah. So I think Solana has always been a growing machine. It's been growing since the day it was born. I think it's mostly because of the team. I didn't appreciate how strong and talented the team is, the Solana Ensemble, until I got here. Previously, I was mostly investing around the ecosystem, looking at projects on Solana, building the ecosystem, but I hadn't really met anyone at the foundation except for Lily, who was my who is my boss, and who ultimately reached out to recruit me to join Solana.
What made you join in that conversation? Like when she reached out to you, because I suppose you had a good job at that time. You were with a venture fund, which was probably also a good place to be at. What made you, in your mind at that moment, be like, I'm actually interested to learn more about this? Yeah,
I think it's mostly her. She is an amazing person. If you guys haven't met her, spend time with her, I'd encourage you to. I think she's just a very strong leader, and kind of has the vision, also has the capabilities and intensity to execute and lead a team to build around it. And I kind of observed from afar how she grew Solana from, 2021 up until today. And I've always been friends with her in the industry, but never closely worked with her. But I can just tell from the ecosystem growth, developer growth, every KPI that matters, Solana's crushing it and becoming number one. And a lot of that is attributable to the team she helped recruit and grow, and the leadership she exhibited. So she's someone I deeply respect, and personally I would like to learn a lot from her. And I think Solana is also a great place. After I joined, I realized every single individual on the team, whether it's the foundation core team, labs, and super team globally, just very good people, extremely capable and extremely warm and open and welcoming. And that kind of is the representation of an organization I'd like to be part of.
How would you distinguish between those, let's say, leader figures we have on Solana? Because we have a few of these. There's Anatoly, obviously, who's kind of the godfather of Solana. But then you have Lily, and most people don't really know the roles here. Like, how would you distinguish the roles of these two characters inside of the Solana ecosystem?
Yeah, so I kind of see the foundation as a BD sort of UI interface for the open source GitHub code. I think Anatoly and the labs team, also half the foundation team, are very technical. Their job is to make sure the blockchain stays alive, that we have uptime 100% of the time, which we're very good at now. And I think Lily's team and the part of the team I'm working on now, our job is to sell all the block space available on the blockchain. So it's actually a very beautiful dance between shipping a product that actually works and then evangelizing it to the world and marketing it to the folks, whether it's in Web2, fintech, traditional finance today, and for payments, AI, assets, asset management, every single industry that will eventually learn about blockchain. It's our job to educate them and evangelize why they should build on Solana.
And then how does Super Team tie in here? Because right now we're sitting in the Super Team Singapore offices, getting a lot of support from them. The people from Super Team Balkan helped us to set up the interview. So it seems like Super Team has a really a good foothold in the ecosystem. How would you say does their role matter? To what extent, and what do they do? How do they distinguish from what Labs does and what Foundation does?
Right. So I think Super Team is a very powerful, magical tool that only the Solana Foundation has. I've investing across many ecosystems previously, mostly on the EVM eco, and also a bit on the Move ecosystem. And I think I've never seen something that's organized the way Solana, the whole Solana ecosystem is. It's quite vertical inside the foundation, in that every person on the BD team basically is a subject matter expert on a specific topic. So we have DeFi, AI, DePIN, payments, stablecoins, and we have commerce, we have DeSci, consumer. So every single person that's leading that vertical is the best person to talk about how to grow that pie. Whereas I think Super Team comes in horizontally in that there's consumer deals in Korea, in Singapore, in Hong Kong. There's also consumer deals in London, in New York, and LA. And the Super Team leads in those countries and regions can then help us figure out the best leads, how to source the best access points, and also how to help us close really large deals when it comes to moving the needle for growth. So I think to have those horizontal and vertical layers working seamlessly across the globe is kind of why Solana grew so fast. And that's kind of a secret sauce I didn't realize how powerful it is until I joined. And I saw this work in action. Our Slack channel is always busy and buzzing. Everyone's like, hey, can I get an intro to X, Y, and Z? And there's always someone raising their hand saying, I can try, I'm going to hustle and get you in front of them. Doesn't matter which team they're on, doesn't matter which region they're in.
You said earlier that your job is to sell block space, at least on a fundamental level, right? There's a lot of levels to it, a lot of flavors. But I actually love that kind of very crisp sentence of our job at Solana Foundation, at the BD team at least, is to sell block space. How do you do that? How do you sell block space, offer open ledger to the world? What does it look like?
Yeah, so a lot of the, if you think about blockchain, it's really an economics or GDP sort of organism. And when I think about GDP of a country, who do I look up to? I think China has done a very good job growing tremendously over the last 2 decades. The US has always been, #1 GDP in the world and still growing at a pretty reasonable pace. Singapore, where we're today, is also one of those miracles countries that born out of nothing and grew tremendously to where it is today. So I think in terms of different L1 ecosystem, I see them as different countries or nation states. And each sort of, L1 leadership and the team they built represents the sort of governance philosophy that's exhibited by different sort of nation states in real life. And I think Solana is one that's extremely, efficient. We execute very well. We have very clear vision led by a great leadership team that's put in place and understand where to take us. And I think, everyone on the team is extremely coordinated and we all try to grow the pie bigger. And that's to say the blockchain space. We need the blockchain space to grow for all the L1s to benefit. So, we're good friends with people in Ethereum. We're good friends with, the Move ecosystem folks. We just want everyone, who don't know about blockchain to know about blockchain.
Right.
And then, once they understand why blockchain is so magical to build, then we can then come in and sell why Solana block space. So I think in the first phase of growth, it's really just about growing the pie for everyone. And that's, Ethereum also has a lot of block space, although a lot of that came from L2 for scaling challenges. You have to work with Optimism, Arbitrum, and a few other L2 providers to figure out how to sell the stock block space on EVM more efficiently. Whereas Solana, we're monolithic by design. It was a choice that we made from day one. It came out to be quite a sensible choice from today's perspective because it makes our job very easy to sell just one block space, right? We're not trying to sell L2 on an L1. We're just selling L1, and it's fast, cheap. And it's something that I think a lot of folks, as they are building on Solana, they understand the magic of how great the UI is, how easy it is to talk to the foundation folks. Because I think Solana Foundation is also very good at getting out there and making sure people know how to reach out to us. I think a lot of the, crypto foundations are quite decentralized by nature. And that is an ethos that got a lot of us into the space. But I think if you really want to grow hyperscale, you kind of need a very unified and a bit more centralized coordinate effort when it comes to BD and growth. So people always give us feedback. We can always find someone at Solana Foundation to talk to if we have a problem. And I wouldn't say that's the same case for many other foundations, which are more decentralized by nature, by philosophy. But as a result, if you're growing at a hyperscale level, the way Facebook grew from zero to $1 trillion company, it is at the end of the day quite a centralized, well-oiled machine that they were able to build.
What KPIs do you think matter the most when you look at the success? Because block space is kind of it's a term that is really difficult to grasp. I think for a lot of people, what would be easier to grasp are probably financial values, anything you can put a dollar sign on. So keywords would be TVLs, revenues, and so on.
Right.
In your opinion, what matters really? Like, what are you personally, or what does Foundation look at when it comes to tracking success of Solana?
Yeah. So I think a lot of the KPIs are quite well broadly accepted by the industry peers. So we look at REV, real economic value. We look at wallet growth, developer growth, user growth, and then we also look at geo. Are we in every country that we can possibly get in? And then I think one thing that we recently realized is also very appealing as we're telling the street to Wall Street, telling the Solana story to Wall Street, is that how much revenue are the builders making on top of Solana? So app revenue, and also just sort of like the ecosystem revenue. And I think Solana scores number one on all metrics. In that, if our job is to sell block space, I see it as sort of infrastructure layer, level of services for the industry. Then we have to make sure the folks who are building on top of Solana are making lots of money, so that they can reinvest the profit into the ecosystem, and then that creates a positive flywheel to attract the better builders to come here, because the best founders are going to go where the profit and the revenue is the maximized. And that for a long time has been Ethereum, and I think Solana has really come in and winning the space by providing extremely good UI, very cheap and fast block space.
I'm a living and breathing example of that, because I come from EVM building, and then we didn't really find good business cases there and no product market fit, not because the product didn't really have a good solution for a problem, but because there was no market to fit to the product.
Right.
So we needed a market. And Solana, and as you said earlier, it was just much easier for us, because BD is easier on Solana, because you don't have to kind of do cross-chain things, and everything is monolithic.
Right.
Every team is right here.
Right.
It's very easy to integrate with.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter if you do B2B or B2C, you'll find a very good foundation on Solana to build on top of if you're actually solving some problems.
That's right.
So, and I think this is what one of the reasons why we have such a good network effect by now in the Solana ecosystem to grow, right?
Yep.
You say you have experience in other chains as well a little bit. So there was like some work you did or some exposure you had on the EVM side of things. I'd be curious to hear, and it's a difficult question probably, your thesis in the next decade when it comes to the dominance of these different ecosystems, and we can narrow it down to maybe 3 or just Ethereum and Solana. How do we play out here? Because in phase 1, sure, we're growing the pie, but at latest in phase 2, we're competing.
Right.
For block space, I guess, or for demand for block space. So do you see a future where we all live together in those different nation states, meaning, i.e. blockchains, layer 1, layer 2, or are we about to eat them up?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a good question. I'm not someone who can predict the future, but I like to hypothesize that I think, if you look at how Web2 companies really grew, they usually solve a common pain point for billions of people. And that in itself, that product market fit alone can create $1 billion, $100 billion of value. Facebook solved the communication. Amazon solves the convenience of just clicking a button and the packages come to your door. Uber, you click a button, the car shows up. Airbnb, you click a button, the house shows up for you to stay in. All of that is a very common challenge among humanity, and the company just figured out how the best, most efficiently to solve the problem. And I think a lot of the people who are building crypto, have still been focusing on solving a very niche problem for their friends, and meaning a lot of the degen crypto sort of trader crowd. But I think at the Solana, sort of from my perspective, I think the way you really kind of grow the pie and also increasing market share in the block space war is to identify common, big pain points in real life, and that is in traditional finance, that is also in Web2 fintech payment stack, and then try to add value there. And I think historically companies make money by doing 2 things. They save cost, right? And that's usually one of the biggest drivers for growth. And then they also increase revenue. And AI has done a tremendous job in doing both, which is why it's taking off. And I think in the sort of blockchain and crypto space, there has still been I think the early sort of mentality of, okay, let's just build this application for our friends and for ourselves. That has to change because for us to really get, billions of people and trillions of assets on chain, it has to serve a broader purpose. And I think the team at Solana, I look around, a lot of us have experience in traditional finance, in law, in DC regulations, and also in Web2. Lily has built a company and sold to Coinbase in Web2. She worked in finance for many years. She understands how financial markets work. She also understands what it takes to build a Web2 real business with real revenue and users. And I think the next phase of the block space war, as we say, is really about how do we deliver the best sort of seamless UI for developers so that they can make the most amount of revenue on Solana, and they can then attract more users because their product's so great and the UI is so amazing. Then the users come, and then the revenue come, and then the better builders come, and then that's how you sell more block space.
Where are we on that journey right now when it comes to 0 to 100? Like 100 is we figured it out. And we kind of have the best checks and everything. Everyone is coming and we're making $1 billion. Then Solana is the dominant ecosystem. Where are we from 0 to 100? To kind of a little to put another layer on that question. In my research, correct me if I'm wrong, I saw that you mentioned here and there that to become mainstream, you need to be weird first. So you need to do some weird things first when they're not mainstream yet.
Right.
Is that something that resonates? Did you say something in those lines somewhere?
Yeah, I did. I probably just tweeted it one day because I thought about it. But I don't think
if it sounds like your thoughts, then and then that sounds to me like very early stage, like we didn't cross the chasm yet. We're like early adopters. So that is like from 0 to 100 is like 5, right? Where are we now? Like on that journey? Are we still super cringe and weird here, or are we starting to pick up and?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. You always want to be a bit weird and contrarian because otherwise, where's the alpha? You have to be different to stand out, and you have to be right. So you have to do both, right? Otherwise, you're just going to be forgotten by everyone else. So I think we should continue to be weird, strange, and think contrarian, think from first principles. But I think if you zoom out, the early adopters of crypto are mostly degen traders or sort of theoretical, philosophical believers of decentralized nation state, and that is a very small subset of the global population. And I think if you talk to your parents, my mom, my dad, they don't really fit in that bucket. So I think you're right. We're already past that initial sort of like early adopter phase, and we're going to the turbo like S-curve adoption of like general population. And what do general population care? They actually don't have the patience to use a very sort of difficult UI onboarding on-ramp process. They just want to click a button. It's really just about how easy it is to get something done. They want to click a button and the money is sent. They want to click a button and the trade is done. They want to click a button and the asset is kind of brought on chain. You can borrow against it. All these financial things that they were doing on the Web2 TradFi rail. They want to be able to do it on blockchain, but also with the ease of click of a button. And that's kind of how the Web2 companies that I mentioned, Facebook, Uber, Amazon, Airbnb, they cracked the code of clicking a button, and then the mass majority of the population were just able to get what they want, whether it's food, there's a hotel, cars, anything they want.
So actually we're on that S-curve, we're making progress. Like we're not down there anymore. I think we're in the momentum phase right now, where it's like growing really quickly because we see products like this on Solana. There's a lot of ease of use right now.
That's right.
On chain, so we're getting there. How many more years do we need until all this is super mainstream? And can we replace legacy technologies as big as exchanges that have been run for decades?
So if you think about the early pitch deck of Solana, it was actually NASDAQ on Lightspeed. And that is specifically referring to the global financial markets. And the global financial market spearheaded, is the global center of liquidity is currently in the US, and it's on NYSE, New York Stock Exchange, and NASDAQ, right? That's where all the liquidity of the equities market congregate. And I think Solana comes in that we are a decentralized sort of permissionless, immutable blockchain that's not governed by any nation state, and that's pretty powerful. And the next phase of growth is to show why Solana is a better venue for trading different sorts of asset, whether it's U.S. stocks, whether it's gold, it's Bitcoin, wrapped Bitcoin, or You can also trade, T-bills, money markets, credits, all these different sorts of assets that traditional finance, $1 trillion of industry, they've only been trading on Web 2, obsolete rails. And then we have to come in and prove that we're better and cheaper and faster, and we're global and we're 24/7, and that is something unthinkable by those folks who are using the same old system for the past few decades. So I think the value prop here is pretty simple. You have to build something that's 10x better than the existing one, and to do that, you have to just think like kind of why I think thinking weird and thinking contrarian is so important, because you can disrupt an existing industry by following the status quo. You have to just think from a completely different perspective and be weird. And I think, Solana has always retained the DNA of being a bit different. And I think, you can see if you come to the conferences, it's like a very different energy from Ethereum or other sort of L1 developer conference. It's very quirky, it's very fun, it's very light. And people really care about UI. People care about delightful experience here. And the color is very, cheerful, and it's just a very different energy. So I encourage, whoever hasn't come to see a Solana developer conference or, Breakpoint, check out the energy level. It's just, you see mass adoption here. You see, folks shipping apps that will be used by billions of people as Solana.
And this is not someone that has been with Solana since ever. This is someone that has been working in TradFi with Goldman Sachs, with venture funds, and then with Ethereum, and is now on Solana. So you are obviously biased because now you're employed for Solana, but you have a really good holistic view and everything. So there's people that, they did something completely else and then went to Solana, they don't know anything else. But if coming from you, I think, and I can also attest to that because I've been going to a lot of DevCons and a lot of ETH hackathons and so on before going to Solana. And it is a sharp difference in a positive way. Now, coming to an end, Jiani, because we have shit to do today, there's more on the agenda. What are you really excited about when it comes to verticals right now on Solana? I know that yourself work a lot with Bitcoin on Sol. So I think that's something you are right now trying to grow the pie on Solana. But this is part of the broader RWA kind of space as well, I think. So just tokenizing things. Would that be something that you are right now most bullish on when it comes especially to growing Solana and selling block space? Are these the verticals that are going to take off?
Yeah, so if you think about blockchain, it's really just the new financial market infrastructure, and you have to have assets that can be traded, borrowed against, lent to. Basically, you have to put a lot of assets on chain, and then smart DeFi protocol founders will figure out how to use them and generate yield, because everyone likes yield and everyone wants more liquidity without selling their most precious possession, which is Bitcoin. So the reason I think Bitcoin is a very good place to start as a broader wrapped asset initiative at Solana is, it's not really just about a TVL. I think TVL is a very rudimentary metric. If you're new to crypto, you go to DeFi Llama, you look at TVL, you're like, okay, TVL is everything. But if you've worked in crypto long enough, that's a very superficial layer of metric. What really matters is assets that move. That's kind of like the holy grail of blockchain. You have to have assets on the chain first, and then the assets have to move, because that's how you generate fees. Fees are yield into users' pocket, and then you also generate more liquidity. The more liquidity begets more liquidity, and then that in itself is a sort of flywheel and network effect. So, so for us, it's very important to get Bitcoin, which is the almost $3 trillion asset class, on Solana first, and that is something I think every single crypto user should own and should have a lot of saving. It's, to me, a Bitcoin is a savings account. It's something you just buy and hold. You don't think about it, but the best product market fit for Bitcoin is actually DeFi collateral. It is something you can actually put on chain, use a DeFi protocol like Camino and Jupiter, and borrow against it. So the number one use case of BTC on Solana today is actually just DeFi collateral. A lot of the funds, whales, users, they put their BTC on chain, and we have many different options of how you wrap your BTC, from Coinbase, OKX, BitGo, all these institutional wrappers, to a lot of the DeFi native ones like Lombard, Zeus, and a few others. And then once you wrap your Bitcoin on chain, you can then go to any of the DeFi protocols, Radium, Orca, Meteora, Camino and Jupiter and Drift, they all accept Bitcoin as collateral now. So you can either borrow against it and kind of borrow stable coins of your choice. And then, stablecoin, that's a new different topic, right? There's different yield opportunity vaults for stablecoin yield. But the most important thing is that you get to get liquidity without selling your Bitcoin. And that is kind of really neat because you don't have to go to the bank to do all of this. You can just click a few buttons, very easy, very simple. You can do it at home and you get liquidity from something like a Bitcoin that you absolutely do not want to sell, but then you also get liquidity to get yield on this asset. So this is kind of the power of blockchain because previously you have gold, you hide the gold under your bed, you don't think about the gold, and gold is useless, right? Because there's nothing you can do with the gold. But digital gold is different. Bitcoin, you can actually wrap it. You can put it on the blockchain, you can put it on Solana. And with all the DeFi primitives we're building, you really can generate maximum usage and yield of this idle asset that would otherwise be sitting under your bed.
Cool. Okay. Final question. Before I give that quick statement, I think we're right now on an upward trajectory. It's super bullish to listen to people like Jiani talking about the core thesis of Solana, how we're going to sell block space and what verticals are taking off right now. And it makes so much sense. And I can hear how traditional finance resonates with that. I'm not working for traditional finance right now, but I can hear how that resonates with them. And that's why we see so much liquidity inflow right now. And we haven't even started yet to largely get that ETFs and all that big money as well in terms of liquidity to Sol. So pretty bullish on Solana. Obviously, I mean, we're Sol brothers, we're perma bulls. We're not going to talk bad about this ecosystem. But Jiani, I think one last question for you would be, what are like the next steps when it comes to yourself and your role on Solana as growth? What are you excited about for the next 3 to 6 months? What are you working on these days? Where does the priority lie? And what are you looking forward to see happening out of that work that you currently do?
Yeah. So
if you can say it.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing that's very near and dear to our hearts is to get all the eligible assets on chain. So Bitcoin is where I'm also going to start wrapping other coins like Doge, Litecoin, Cardano, like a lot of those Dino coins that have really strong user base, but very little utility and liquidity.
Yeah.
We can wrap that onto Solana and use that as collateral for DeFi and get some usage out of those otherwise assets, idle assets sitting in your wallet. And then we can also wrap gold. There's a few sort of digital gold, like actual physical gold wrapped options coming online right now. I'm working with a few. So then, if you want to have access and exposure to gold, you can then also do the same thing, get liquidity from gold without selling your gold. So then, it's kind of a similar playbook as Bitcoin, except it's physical gold on chain. So those are all interesting things I'm working on. And again, like Bitcoin is still getting started. When I joined, there was about 3,000 Bitcoin on Solana. We just crossed 1,000. There was about 300 million of Bitcoin on Solana, and then we just crossed 1 billion last week. So this is just the beginning, and I think more and more people are waking up to realize, okay, how do I get more usage and utility out of this amazing asset that everyone should own and only buy more of, while also doing some other cool things with Bitcoin on chain.
Amazing. So I think my initial question was, what are you growing on Solana? And I think Jiani's growing liquidity. That is a good, that puts it in a nutshell to say so. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting to us. I think that people can definitely learn from that. If people want to learn more about you or hear more about your thoughts, I think Twitter might be the best place to start. Chloe Jiani is the Twitter. So that would be Jiani.
Yes.
Chloe Jiani on Twitter. So check her out, guys. Give her a follow, see what she's up to. And you have a good week here in Singapore.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
Good day.
All right. That's a cut.
All right.
Recording is cut. We're still live. We have like 3,600 people on the live stream. So there's definitely people watching this.
Wow.
Yeah.
3,000.
Right now, that's what StreamYard is telling us. So guys, thank you so much for joining here. Obviously, these live streams are always less professional. But if you want to see the good clip, then just wait for a few days. It's going to be on our YouTube at Sol Brothers Pod on YouTube. So, thanks for joining, and you have a good week. See you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.